Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to Commute Talk. It's kind of an ambiguous morning here. Got a lovely sunrise, but there's also some serious rain clouds coming in. So we'll see what kind of day this turns into. But I'm optimistic because I work indoors. So I just get to hear the rain all day. Or not. We'll see. It's all good. So somebody asked me why I'm chewing gum while I'm recording these talks. And the short answer is because it helps me talk. It's the same reason that I drink tea while I'm at my computer, because it keeps my voice from breaking and helps keep my tone steady, if that makes sense. If I don't drink tea or chew gum, then my voice starts to crack, and it's very annoying, and I start to cough. And maybe there's some good solution for that. If you know it, let me know. But that's why. So, but anyways, that's not what this is about. So Dux wrote in asking about file systems, and if Serenity is ever going to support any more file systems, because right now it only supports ext2 when it comes to like on-disk file systems, and then of course we have some in-kernel systems like procfs, tmpfs that Sergey implemented. Thank you, Sergey. And dev ptsfs for the pseudo terminals to pop up in /dev/pts. But none of those are on disk, right? It's only ext2 that's on disk. And I guess the short answer is, well, yeah, sure. We'll probably support more file systems eventually. And maybe the logical next two to implement would be like ISO 9660 for CD-ROM, and some kind of FAT, like Windows file system for like flash drive compatibility, stuff like that. But it's not something that I'm looking at. I think it shouldn't be terribly difficult to implement a new file system. What you would have to do is basically subclass two things. First you have to subclass the file system class in the kernel, and then you implement all of the pure virtuals, and then you would also have to subclass the inode class, and then implement all of the pure virtuals there. And then more or less you would have, I think, a functioning file system. Of course, there's currently no code that like detects what kind of file system is in a partition and picks the right file system based on that. It's code that needs to be written, and maybe like have a mechanism that each file system can be queried with, I don't know, like a pointer to the first block of the file system or something, like, hey, does this look like your kind of file system? Can you interpret this? I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but I can't imagine it would be too difficult to implement that. But at the moment, it would have to be in the kernel, like you would have to build it into the kernel. In the future, I would like this to be like dynamically loadable. You would be able to write, I would like to have loadable kernel modules, basically, like pieces of kernel code that is not always in there, but if you tell the kernel to, then it would load some additional functionality, just like modules in Linux. We don't have that at the moment, but in the future, I think we will. I just didn't sit down and work on that yet, because a lot of people ask me, like, how do you choose what to work on? And 99% of the time, I just choose whatever is fun, whatever is interesting. And then the rest of the time, I try to fix stuff that's not working right, or that's like disruptive or irritating. But usually that type of stuff tends to be interesting as well. So the 1% is like strictly like, shit, well, I guess I have to do this. but somehow I mostly managed to keep it fun. And I think you might you might you might get the impression that it holds the overall progress back. That I do sometimes neglect breakage for a while, but I try to get around to it eventually. So I don't want to have like a broken build ever. Obviously, like it should always build and should always run. And if something is badly broken, then I would revert it. But if not, then I would rather try to move forward. Anyways, so when it comes to file systems, though, it really does feel like uh, sideways development to me, like adding more file systems. There's a lot of stuff that feels like that to me, like adding hardware support, for instance. I totally understand if somebody has some piece of hardware and he wants to run Serenity on it, and I totally understand implementing some hardware support then, but just sitting and implementing hardware support for the sake of implementing hardware support, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not going to say no to someone who wants to do it, but it's not where my interests lie. I very much prefer to build upwards and forwards, and like to spend time putting up scaffolding so we can build bigger and cooler things instead of laying brick after brick of foundation. And I know that there are people who like to just sit and pack foundation bricks together all day, and that's great. Like the world needs people like that too, and Serenity could actually benefit from from someone like that coming in and laying some foundation here and there. But that's not really my style of development. And if you've been watching me programming, then you know that I say things like, oh, well, I'm not going to worry about this right now, or, well, I'll just think about that later. And I do think about it later, and I do worry about it later, but I try to keep a strong focus to keep going forward and upward, because it's necessary if you want to keep expanding as much as this project has in such a short time. And I think there will come a lull eventually, where I go and try to polish things up and like iterate on things. It's just that with the addition of the web browser, then it just opened up this huge field of things to do. So I'm just expanding that field right now, putting up scaffolding. But there will come a time when I want to fill in a lot of the sketched out areas and like add some detail. It's a process. It's like a TikTok development process almost. Or maybe it's like that thing that, what was the thing that Intel started doing after? Process architecture optimization, was that it? Thing that came after TikTok? Three-phase development. I don't know. Anyways, this has, wow, I'm just talking about all kinds of stuff now. But the question was about file systems. So, yeah, I'd like to support more file systems, but I don't think that there's immediate value in adding any particular file system. And the ext2 implementation is still has many bugs, a lot of missing functionality. It does not, for instance, support hash directories, which would be nice to implement. And it's guaranteed to fall apart if you add files that are too big. So that's something else. There's a lot of stuff to do, and of course the locking is way too aggressive. Definitely need to polish up that story before considering it anywhere near finished. But yeah, I certainly don't discourage anyone from adding another file system, but it's not something I'm going to be working on in the near future, I think. But I guess that's where I run out of things to say about things. So I'm just going to say thanks for sending in the question and for hanging out with me on the commute. It's really lovely to have you all here in the car. And I guess I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Ciao.